Jai Gajanan, Ganeshaya Namastubhyam, Herambaya Ekadantini, Swanandavasini Tubhyam, Brahmanaspataye Namaha. With humble pranams to Paramacharyas, Acharyas and Gurus, let us continue our study of Jnanasara from where we left off in the last session. We were discussing about Siddhi Buddhi. Now Sanaka is asking, Siddhi and Buddhi are devoted to their husband Ganesha. But then we say Ganesha is a Brahmachari. He is said to be without a wife. Please tell us about it. So Ganaka is narrating what he heard from Shiva as he was narrating to Sanaka and others, Skanda and all the entire assembly present in Kailash. So Ganaka says, Buddhi is like the virtuous mind, just as the wick is to a lamp. And Siddhi is like the oil that supports the burning of the wick in that lamp. So imagine this, there is this lamp. Siddhi is the oil which allows that wick to burn. And Buddhi is like the virtuous mind that actually gets burnt in the process of learning. So the Atma we speak about is an indication of the presence of the Supreme within us. In the presence of the Supreme, Buddhi enlightens as Siddhi burns, as the Siddhi, as the oil provides the fuel for burning for that wick. So the Supreme Paramatma Ganesh, who is the Atma, he is present as a witness to this whole process. So that is why even though Siddhi and Buddhi are his wife, he remains as a witness and therefore he is actually said to be without a wife. So Gaanapatam Brahma residing within dissolves the heart's tendencies. Externally, Brahma assumes various forms for destructions of the delusion of Maya. But as a knower of the Kshetra or the field of experiences, he resides in all the Jivas and the Jiva Atman to enable the Jiva to know the Kshetra. So, present as the Atma within a Jiva, he enables the individual Jiva to know the field of experiences. So Vedic scholars have said that Ishwara is that Paramatma and is devoid of any differences between the Jivas. Means he is equally present in all the Jivas in that equal quality. There is no difference in the quality of the Atma of the Jiva. So he exists as consciousness. That consciousness or the texture of that consciousness is the same everywhere. So that is why we say the God is omnipresent. He is present everywhere. So it is in that sense. And Pancham, that is Pancham Ganesha, is a witness to all that is going on. So thus we say the oil is a Shakti that keeps the wick of the lamp burning. So Siddhi Buddhi's devotion to their husband is there, no doubt. The Supreme Ganesha in their abode is just like a devotion to the husband, and which even the Munis have stated as in the course of their meditation. But just as how light and heat is present, light and heat both are present in fire, so also Ganesha exists within as the Atma, as a witness. He just exists. Brahma created the five gods, the five Ishwaras in the beginning. Through his reflection in the Maya, while he himself was above Maya, his reflection became the Mahamaya, and through that Mahamaya, he created the whole world. So, at the beginning of creation itself, Pancham Brahma created the fourfold Vishwa. where there was no action and he existed as witness alone. The four states of Vishwa, that is your awakened state, deep, dream state, deep sleep state, and Turiya state, these four states of the world was created by Brahma in the beginning, but then that was not active. It was in a dormant state. So even there, when it was a dormant state, he remained there as the witness. So there's no doubt that he's the origin of the gross Maya, who is the lord of Jivas. Maya creates this world through her Yoga Maya, and he establishes in each of them as the witness. So, for the purpose of enjoying the experiences, Maya gives up her true form and assumes a gross form embodying his greatness. So she gives up her original nature as Maya, but assumes through various permutations and combinations of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. She assumes various forms with different names, with him as a witness, in order to for as an embodiment of his greatness. So, assuming numerous forms, she becomes the world itself. So it is in this sense that yogis or the experts in yoga say that Ganapa or Gananatha has no wife. Then Sanaka has another doubt. Why is Ganesha said to be a Brahmachari? He has Siddhi Buddhi with him. Then how does he become a Brahmachari? So Ganaka replies, Karma, Jnana and worship with their divisions and subdivisions are the three forms of activity. Although karma has various, there are many forms of karma, but karma, jnana, and worship are the three divisions, and they have their own subdivisions. And this was the activity, and these are done to attain. Why these activities? Why do we engage in karmas? In order to attain certain siddhis, which we gain by performing those activities. So the fourfold form of this world, manifested from pranava, whose nature is sound, was of these four kinds. So the awakened state of Brahma was the awakened state of Brahma, which was the creative part of it, was administered by Brahmanaspati himself, and anyone walking on the path of experiences or attaining that state of beingness of Brahmanaspati, experiencing the state of Brahmanaspati, means that he is walking on the path of Brahma. So that is why Brahmachari, that is the one who has the achara or the steps that he follows on the path to attain Brahma, he is known as Brahmachari. In all four Vedas, it is like that. So, whichever Brahma you want to attain, whichever Brahma, that is Vishnu Brahma, Shiva Brahma, Shakti Brahma, Surya Brahma, the person who is following that path is a Brahmachari. So, Jnana, Seva, Karma, and Bhakti are the terms used for the various steps. But the Atma within all the deities is Ganesha as the eldest of all, as the essence or the Atma. Brahmanaspati is accepted, Brahmanaspati Ganesha is accepted as the first worshipped, and he is a Brahmachari. It was due to the wrath or the anger of Rudra that he got an elephant's head. So, as a brahmachari, he did not have any marital relations while passing through the various stages in life, such as childhood, youth, and old age. To protect the stage as brahmachari, he took birth with an elephant's head. As Shambhu's son, Ganesha was no doubt a brahmachari. The Lord, although connected to Siddhi Buddhi and became Rudra and other devas himself, that is, the Brahmanaspati himself became all these devas, and he was connected to Siddhi and Buddhi, still he abstained from copulation with any of them. So that is why he is called Brahmachari. The Lord incarnates as assuming a human body for killing demons. As he did so when he took birth as Shiva's or Kashyap's son in ancient times. He has manifested several times as Shiva's son, and he was also born as Kashyap's son. Even as husband of Siddhi and Buddhi, the state is devoid of any sexual relations. Hence, he is a Brahmachari and he is the same Brahmanaspati. Vignapa above all states, even though he is connected to all states, he is above all those states. Similarly, he is also linked to all varnashramas. There is no distinction between any ashrama dharma. His ashrama, that is a particular stage of life. Even though he is connected to Maya, he is devoid of Maya, and as such, Vignapa is established as Supreme Brahma. Then Sanaka is asking, okay, the Vedas described him to be the Mahavakya, the Tattvamasi. But if he is the form of that Mahavakya Tattvamasi, then how that he is Shiva's son? What is the reason for this difference? Please tell us about the Ganesha principle. So Ganaka replies, at the beginning of a kalpa, the five devas were born with one part each, one ansh each of Ganesha. After an intense tapas, because initially they were in the unmanifest state, and so in order to be able to perform the functions or duties which are assigned to them by Ganesha, they needed knowledge. So they did intense tapas, penance, and on this Ekakshara mantra, and then actually, yena kena, initially the primordial principle, they didn't even know that Ekakshara mantra. So they, yena kena, just that from where we came, from that Paramatma, just enakena. That was the mantra on which they meditated and contemplated for years and years and years before the Ganesha, the Supreme Paramatma, manifested and then activated the knowledge in those five Ishwaras. So, after an intense tapas to please Ganesha, Pancham first manifested in the heart of Shambhu. He manifested in the hearts of others later. Brahma created the world which was nourished by Keshava. Its destroyer is Isha, Lord of Parvati. Shakti is the enchantress of the world. For regulating the wheel of time, Ravi manifested from Vibhu. That is Surya manifested from Vibhu. That's a creator. In the end, as an embodiment of Sattva-guna, Gajanana was born as Shiva's son as a respectful fulfillment of his promise in answer to a prayer of intention expressed with sankalpa. That is with the sankalpa. You take a little water in the hand and you make a sankalpa and ask for Ganesha to be born. That was the way Ganesha fulfilled his promise to be born as Shiva's son. Shiva said, O Lord of the five gods, please manifest in our consciousness. This initially when Shiva prayed or Shambhu prayed, Ganesha manifested as Jyoti, as a light in Shiva's heart. So Shiva had prayed that please manifest in our consciousness. I meditated. Shiva is now narrating. Shiva is just telling this to Sanaka, the Skanda, and others who are sitting. I meditated in my heart and wished him be born as my son, so as to be able to nurture the Lord. May you be known as my son among people. So you can move about happily without being subordinate to Maya, because that was the Shambhukalpa. Sadashiva prayed thus for a long time. Ganadesha, pleased with him, manifested along with Siddhi and Buddhi. So Ganesha said, in order to fulfill the desire of the five Ishwaras who meditate upon me, in order to for killing the Danavas in that earlier stage from the unmanifest, the first thing the manifestation were in the form of not the first thing along with the creation manifested the Danavas also the demons. So for killing those demons, the Ishwaras prayed to Ganesha and so he also manifested for protecting his devotees and for establishment of dharma. So Ganesha had said to Shiva in his heart that I shall incarnate in a human body in this world, O Sadashiva. This birth with a human body will be an incarnation on earth. So he had assured Sadashiva in the unmanifest form when Sadashiva had meditated on Ganesha, on Supreme Brahmadeva, on the Supreme Brahma. So Ganesha again repeats, I have incarnated on earth several times in the past and shall do so in future as well. As per your wish, I shall take birth as your son. I was born in your house several times in answer to your prayers. I shall be born now and in future as well. So have no doubts. As your son, I shall be the first worshipped by all, and you shall be hailed as the father of the eldest in the universe, Shankara. I shall attain fame as your son, assuring Parvati's husband thus, the Brahmanaspati who manifested as a Jyoti in the form of light in the heart of Shambhu disappeared. He vanished after giving this promise to Shambhu. This is what Shiva is narrating to Skanda and others. Brahmanaspati incarnated first as Shankara's son. Then later he incarnated again as Ansh portion as Kashyapa's sons. And also in the house of Brahma and all other and other Ishwaras, which has we also saw in one of the sessions in the earlier how different Ishwaras, how Ganesha is worshipped in different lokas by the different gods. So he had manifested there in answer to their prayers and as a fulfillment of the boons granted to them when they did intense penance. So Gananayaka has taken birth as Shankara's son several times. And so we have the Ashtanama Stotra where we see the names. Earlier we saw his name mentioned as Kashyapatmaja, means the one who was born in the house of Kashyapa. In the Sahasranama Stotra also it has a mention as the Atma, as a manifestation in the Atma of Kashyapa, which means that he, in his meditation, Kashyapa saw or Kashyapa in his heart, Ganesha had manifested in his heart during meditation. So that manifestation itself is a birth. So he becomes Kashyapa's son. So that is why that name Kashyapatmaja, the word Kashyapatmaja is indicates as the Atma born sons, the soul born son of Kashyapa. Again, we find Shiva Sudha. Om Namo Vradapate Namo Ganapate Nama Paramatapate Namaste Astilambodharaya Ekadantaya Vignanashne Shiva Sudaya Namo Nama. So there also we see Shiva Sudha. So Shiva Sudha is an indication where he shows his love for devotees as Shiva Sudha, the son of Shiva. Of course, this does not in any way reduce the status of Shiva as Ishwara. Even in Ganesh Atharva Shirša it is mentioned, he took the embodiment of the Mahavakya in order to please the Veda Purusha. In order to grace Veda Purusha, he took the form of the Mahavakyas. As Lord of the three Padas, he is the Supreme. Three padas is Tatpada, Twampada and Asipada. He is the supreme. So his unmanifest form as the Turiya Brahma, namely Pancham, has been hailed by the Veda Purusha. The mantra of invisible Brahmanaspati was Tata Param in the ancient times. So in the ancient times, what Rishis and Munis actually the mantra because he was invisible. There was no manifestation at that time. The manifestation he had never manifested. So at that time, Tata Param. So that was that supreme. So that was the mantra that was they chanted. It was a mantra on which the yogis meditated ceaselessly, unceasingly. His boons on Prakriti and Purusha is also well known. But Prakriti and Purusha also, when they manifested from Brahma, at that time they did not know how their functions, what were the skills, what were the capabilities. So again, they have also had to meditate for years, ages and ages, and then Ganesha manifested and gave them boons. So yogis who have been doing meditation and contemplation for several years, they realize the mantras which are chanted by these Ishwaras for attaining various levels. So what pleases Ganesha the most is his praise is the Ashtanama Stotra, where all the 8 names as Shiva's sons come in that Ashtanama Stotra. So of which the 7th one is the most remembered. Mostly his incarnations were as Shiva's son. But then there is also a Vishnu Atharvashish where he was Devaki's son. To Vishnu and Devaki he was born. So I shall tell you about that some other time, about the story of his incarnation as son of Keshava and Devaki. So this is the story of Shiva's son demonstrating his love for devotees. So then Sanaka is asking, Ganesha's birth from the dirt of Uma's body. What was that story about? Wife of Sadashiva, she had been meditating and he was created out of the bodies, the dirt on the body of Uma. And then Sadashiva was said to have chopped off his head, which is a well-known story. Please tell us more about that. For that incarnation as Shiva's son. So Ganaka is narrating to that story. He says there are 2 popular stories about this incarnation from the dirt. In one kalpa, Ganesha was, remember there are 71 to 72 kalpas in one Mahakalpa one Mahakalpa. So in one of the kalpas, Ganesha was born from the dirt and was known as Pancham. In another kalpa, he was born as a Munishwara from the dirt of Uma and Shambhu, both of whom were in their Turiya bodies, in their unmanifest bodies. So, in this way, we can see that according to the Yuga Dharma, according to the characteristic features of the Yuga, the Kalpa in which it was taking place, Ganesha manifested in various ways. He resides in his Turiya state in this universe at Kailash for protecting humanity. His Shakti is Devi Uma, who gave birth to Ganesha with an elephant's head. Once she did penance following all the rules to please Ganesha for being born as her son. Accordingly, Ganesha manifested before the goddess and granted her a boon. Then when Uma was born as Parvati, daughter of the mountains, she had done intense penance to please Shankara to attain him as her husband. And her body was covered with dust. Seeing Parvati in that condition, Mada and other devas went to Girijapati, that is her father, Lord of Mountains, and pleaded with him to get her married to Mahadeva. So they convinced him that he is worshipped even by Munis, he is such a great person, he is worshipped by all Munis, Rishis, and therefore the most suitable for the hand of Parvati. This Parvati got married to Shambhu as prescribed in the Shastras. After going to Kailash, Jagadamba's heart was full of joy. And then was full of, but then she found that Shiva was constantly in meditation, and so she felt that she needed someone who is exclusively hers, and so who will take care of her needs, or whom she can command at beck and call. So essentially, so she went to have a bath. She applied all turmeric on her body and removed all the dirt from the body and gave a shape to that dirt, that all that turmeric and everything, and kept it on a stone. And she gave it a shape of a boy. And she enlivened that boy, and he was that Ganesha, or that means he was that Munishwara. So that Munishwara, who was born as a boy, was the one whom she used to command as take care of that, don't allow anybody inside. And so that boy was also was exclusively hers. She was born only from Shakti. Giving up Shambhu, they start. So then at that time, when naturally, when Shambhu was always in meditation, so when they had this boy exclusively of Shakti, all the Munis and Rishis and all of those people who were in Kailash started becoming devotee of Shakti. So that was a period of Shakti worship. Shakti became, that was a, you can say, Shakti Kalpa, where Shakti was predominant and there was a complete worship of Shakti. Shakti was, so giving up Shambhu, they started singing the glory of Parashakti wholeheartedly. They became Shakta. So that was the Shakta tradition, or the followers of Shakti, without the need for any initiation. Just by devotion alone, they could become devotees of Shakti. So devotion alone could ensure proximity towards Shakti. In that kalpa, he was born. In that kalpa, Ganesha was born as Mahadeva's son due to the glory of devotion. So Jagadamba, she made the young boy, stand at the entrance of her house, of her room, and leaving him there, Jagadamba went inside with the instruction not to allow anybody inside. She also entrusted with the work of protecting her, taking her. So he used to take those instructions as sacrosanct. Means there was nothing beyond those instructions. That was it. Means he would follow it to the letter. So the boy stood ready outside. So with the hope of seeing Parvati, Shiva arrived there, and there he met with his opposition at the entrance. When Girijapati returned, even after being reproached, the lad challenged. He would not allow. First and foremost, he said not to enter. And then, so Shiva went back. And again, when he came back, again he refused. And he literally challenged Rudra, how dare you enter? So this made Rudra angry, and he threw the Trishul and chopped off the head of Ganesh, of this boy. And so seeing when the boy's head was cut off, and when Parvati came outside and came to know of this, she was shattered. She she was filled with all kinds of emotions. She was filled with anger, and with that anger she went to all the lokas, because that was Shakti period. So at that, and all the people, the rishis, munis, all the devas were worshipping Shakti only. And so she went to all the lokas and told all of them, appealed to all of them, see this drastic action that Shiva has done, Shambhu has done. And she felt, and when seeing Shakti in that condition, they also felt lost, and so strained they felt, but still they stood by her. And Brahma inquired the angry Girija. So Brahma also came to know of this, and he came and inquired about Girija. What is the reason for this? So they all told him about this Ganesha, which was had been beheaded. So not then they all approached Hara, that is, not seeing that Hara, they all went. Vishnu also was there. So Vishnu, noticing this, Ganesha, now see here, Ganesha had been, there was a purpose for Ganesha's head being cut off. I shall just tell you in a bit of that episode which actually led to this situation. But here, right now, when the boy's head was cut off, she is pleading to Brahma, asking for Brahmanaspati's grace to make this son alive. So, but at that time, uh, the head had to be replaced because head was chopped off. So Vishnu asked the Ganas to go and fetch the head of the nearest animal, and they found the head of Gajasura, an elephant, and then that Gajasura happened to be a devotee of Shiva, and so. Actually, the Gajasura was a devotee of Vishnu. But if when Vishnu says, cannot give you salvation, you will have to worship Shiva. So Gajasura was there worshipping Shiva, waiting for his death. So when the Ganas went there, he was actually waiting for his death. So they chopped off his head and brought and placed it on the head of Ganesha, on the body of Ganesha. This was a part of the Leela. Now here, what was the Leela? The Leela here was, as we saw in the last session, in the earlier, when Brahma Devas had, from the forehead of Brahmadeva, Rudra manifested as Ardhanarishwara. At that time, Brahmadeva had 5 heads. And Rudra, when he is noticed that the fifth head was abusing, actually, was going against the Vedas, he had chopped off that head. So, Rudra, having cut off that fifth head of Brahma, and also, as the word of Brahma is always a proclamation of Shrutis, so Ganadipa was, Brahma pronounced a curse that Rudra will have to have an experience of sorrow similar to that of a mother losing a child, dying a child, but then that a child. So in this case here, when Ganesha's head was chopped off and the grief or sorrow that Parvati was experiencing, that same sorrow Shiva had to experience. At the same time, the Shiva, Shakti, who had relinquished knowledge, is denied of the knowledge of the divine. Without initiation, a Shakta has only the path of bhakti available. So, due to bhakti yoga, the best of devotees merge into the body of Shakti after death due to her grace. Now, past karmas, particularly the meritorious karmas, have great influence. So, whatever karmas we do, it has an influence, which is why even a boy who was born out of the dirt from Uma's body became a blessed Purusha. It was destined to attract the wrath. That karma, the karmas have an effect. So, it was attracting the wrath of Shiva, and he beheaded her as per the plan previously conceived. So, do you get the whole picture here? So, even if Shakti was worshipped out of devotion and there was no initiation also required, but still, so even if you do bhakti also, any karma performed there will have its consequences. So that is how, and Brahma himself had accepted to be born as Shiva's son, as Parvati's son, and then get himself beheaded in order to fulfill Shiva's curse, Rudra's curse, when he had when he had chopped off the fifth head of Brahma. So this was the grace of Brahma on Rudra to be born as Parvati's son, get his head chopped off, and then set off that karma debt of Shiva. So here, Shiva had to face that sorrow. But then he didn't want, Brahmadeva did not want Parvati to become a widow. But yet Shiva had to experience that same um, pain, that same grief, as though she had become a widow. So that was why Brahmadeva himself, he got as a boy, he got his head beheaded, as though it was like the intensity of grief was the similar. This was the previously conceived. So in the initially, this was the mechanism by which we can understand how karma's impacts are set off by an equal degree of pain. So that is, every debit has a credit equal and opposite in direction. So it's just that same law that's applied to karma. So his body became a medium to be subjected to misfortune for coming to birth as Ganesha. So now you understand how this Ganesha, he took the place of Brahmadeva as Brahma. That's why that Brahma, when he was cursed that by Shiva, that he will not be worshipped now anywhere, he will have no temples built for him, and they were sidelined. So he himself was born as Shiva's son, and he took the place as Brahmanaspati Ganesha. That's why now that position was occupied by Brahmanaspati, by his birth as Ganesha's as Shiva's son. So pranava is the mantra for all the for is a mantra for Ganesha in all the three varnas, which was instrumental in infusing that life into that body of that boy for bringing him back to life. So Brahmadeva prayed to Brahmanaspati by doing japa of the single letter Ekakshara mantra Gang Ganapati Gang. So that was the mantra by which that boy came to life again. So he did intense japa of the mantra for 1 lakh times. 100 lakh. So which led to the manifestation of Ganesha beyond doubt. So that was how that Ganesha got a power equal to that of Brahma. Listening to Brahma's words, Chakru and other. So when this narration was being done, by Ganaka Rishi, he narrated the incident as Shambhu himself was narrating to Skanda and others. The people who were sitting in the audience, Chakru and gods and everybody was but they had horripilations on their body. Just literally, they had tears in their eyes, and they were it was like a fulfillment of Vishnu's promise given earlier. They realized that Vishnu also had contributed by fulfilling the promise given to Gajasura. So this is how there is a liberation, even when one is a devotee of one Ishwara, the liberation granted gives you an evolution, or a stage. It lifts you up to the next stage. So that is how from the Jiva there is an ascent to Ishwara, and when the Supreme Paramatma decides to manifest, it's a descent of the Ishwara. This is more elaborately mentioned in the Ganesh Gita also. Thus, this body served four purposes. One, it was sever the head from the body. Two, Vignesha was obedient to his mother's orders. Third, he was created by a woman alone. And fourth, he attracted the fury of the three-eyed one, that is Rudra, who later adopted Ganapa as a son. So these four conditions were satisfied and for the karma to be set off. Okay, so Ganapa, thus he, and then later on Shiva adopted that Ganapa as his own son. So now Brahma is narrating. Shambhu had cut off one of my heads in an earlier era of Shambhu Kalpa. I'm just repeating once again as exactly what Brahma said. Shambhu had cut off one of my heads in an earlier era of Shambhu Kalpa. He is presently Shiva who blew breath into the boy born of a woman alone after cutting off his head in anger. So it was the fulfillment of this fulfillment that Vignanayaka took birth for his from his mother alone. Only after Shiva's death, his mother could become a widow. So the curse was that he should suffer the pain of a son's death. But if he was killed, then Parvati would become a widow. So, with killing of the boy born of a woman, Shankara was put in a state like death. So thus he kept, or a state of grief like that of experiencing a death. So thus he kept Brahma's words and Ganadipa acted accordingly. So Ganadipa not only fulfilled Girija's prayers of being born as her son exclusively, but he also got his head cut off to make Shiva's experience of death like a father's sorrow at the death of his son without his wife becoming a widow, because he was born only from his wife, that is only from Parvati, of a woman alone, but still he experienced that same pain without him being killed. That is, he need not experience, he experienced that sorrow which is equivalent to that of, as though of without his wife becoming a widow. So this also proved that whatever may come from Brahma's spoken words is desirable even to gods, just as the creation of a son of a woman alone. So by killing the boy born of Shakti, Ganesha was also pleased as he got the chance to fulfill the promise made by me to Shiva. This is Brahmadeva's explaining. Besides, Ganesha had also consented to Shiva in his boon that he would reside in Kailash, his abode, by being born as a son to the Lord of Gauri. So, remembering his earlier position, formally, Brahma is telling, formally, I had 5 faces. With one of my faces cut off, I was also served the punishment of not being worshipful in houses or temples. So, Shankara's idol alone would be worshipped as a deity. If the five-faced one is present, that is, if Brahmadeva with the 5 faces is present in temples or in houses, it would result in destruction. Parashakti caused great destruction during the reign of Sadashiva, which was unfortunate. His glory should no doubt be kept in mind. This gave an opportunity for Gananatha to please Shankara by killing Chanda. Chanda and Munda was the demons that was killed during that time. The fierce and wrathful leader, as a fierce and wrathful leader in the battle against Danavas. Again, Ganesha had taken birth as the son of Vishnu, as Tushti Pushti, son of Vishnu, and placed his father as a child with a childhood play and wonderment. After submitting himself to his father, the boy returned to Swananda. So these are Leelas or manifest incarnations of Ganesha who manifests, does a certain thing, kills certain demons, and then he just disappears, just vanishes, and that is he goes back to the Swananda Loka, his abode. When he was born again from the dirt of Uma's body, when he was born with Uma's body, since it had a form, it was endowed with the three gunas. So it is this Ganapa that of the gunas, that is which we worship as idols by all Ganesha devotees across the world. With this, we can conclude this session. We shall continue in the next session. Jai Gajanana.